Hey everybody, welcome back to Sounds Like a Drum, Cade's independent media production. Today, we are harkening back to a much older episode, putting a little bit of a new spin on it. Today, we're going to experiment with removing half the tension rods from a snare drum. If you've been with us for a long time, watching shows over the years, it's been years now, you may have caught one where we experimented with removing half of the tension rods from a bass drum, with the idea being that each of these is a node of pressure that's putting pressure directly onto the head through the hoop and basically giving us our evenly tuned sound. Now, if all of that feels super sciencey and a little confusing, flying over the head-ish information, bear with me here because this actually has a really useful and interesting sonic impact that we first started experiencing when we started getting vintage drums here that had less than 8 lugs. A lot of us have experience with 10-lug drums and 8-lug drums. When you get down to a 6, the whole behavior of the instrument starts to change in a way that can be really useful and really pleasing to the ear, especially if you're going for something a little bit left of center in terms of modern sounds. First, let's hear the Supra at a medium tension with all of the tension rods present, sort of in the range that we often use it here when it's kind of the de facto snare drum sound. Pretty familiar, sounds like a drum, most recorded snare drum in history. And now we're going to go ahead and remove 5 of the tension rods, but we're not going to change the tuning of the remaining 5. Now, admittedly, this sounds pretty janky, not surprised at all because we had 10 tension rods in play before that were all working together to keep it even. As we take them out, things shift a little bit. But now what we want to do is tension up the 5 that we have back up to where we were before so that we can hear this drum with 5 at the pitch that it was at 10 moments ago. Right out of the gate, we can hear that at the same amount of tension, again, but distributed over only 5 tension rods, the sound is significantly different. This isn't necessarily something that we would do in a recording situation, but this is also a very interesting choice for some live situations, or if you're looking for something that sounds just a little bit, again, left of center, but still in the pitch range of a snare drum that you would hear in pop and sort of modern music. Now we're going to jump back a little bit. We're going to replace all of the tension rods and we're going to go for a lower tuning and then compare that to a 5 tension rod situation. This 10 tension rod sound is in the lower end of what's sort of like the super usable range of this drum. And still something that we do fairly often here. It's a really, really great sound. And rather than dropping from here, we're just going to go ahead and match this pitch, but with only 5 tension rods. Pretty significantly different sound. Some of the caveats here are that our aim has to be pretty accurate when we're tuning this low because the overtones can get a little wild, but given that there's no muffling on this and we just took some tension rods out, it's pretty fascinating that this exists inside of this same drum at the same pitch. And now for the piece de resistance, the whole idea here, which we figured out when we did this with the bass drum, is that this completely changes the character of super low tunings. So we're going to go ahead and take the drum down extra on the batter side and make a couple of adjustments to the snare side head at this point, which we haven't done so far, to really dial in the tone and give us the big, woofy, boomy thing that we're looking for. Pretty rad sound, pretty wild. I can think of a lot of opportunities where this would be a lot of fun in live or recording situations. It does live in the realm that we kind of go to when we think about things like putting upside down drum heads on the drum and things like that. But in this case, we haven't added any mass to the head, so we still have the full flexibility of the drum head for rolls and for rim shots and anything that we want to do. But at the same time, we're down in the space where the overtones are wild. The whole sound of the drum is a little bit crazy, but it still feels really good to hit. It doesn't have any kind of like physical hindrance. It doesn't actually feel any different than the other tuning. Now, a couple of overarching points to mention here. Thing one is that it seems to be almost common knowledge, or at least a lot of people feel that when they see a snare drum that has less than 8 lugs on it, some people less than 10, they imagine that it is of lower quality. In some cases, this is true of vintage drums where they were trying to save a little bit of money by just putting less components on the drum, but largely, it doesn't mean that it's a lesser drum if it has 6 lugs. It's just a different sound, it behaves differently, gives you a totally different feel, and it's really worth checking out before you start to judge with your eyes with things like this. Secondarily, and this is extra true with the Supraphonic, super low tunings with all of the tension rods intact really lead to them backing out because you've got 10 of them. So when you move to something like 5, or maybe if it was an Acoustic or something with 8 lugs moving to 4, you've got so much more tension on each of them that there's going to be much less of an issue with that, and you're going to be able to maintain your tuning and not worry about any of the tension rods flying out of the drum while you're playing. My favorite place to put something like this is actually as an auxiliary snare, because if I'm playing something that is like more aggressive or more modern and I want something kind of out to lunch on the side, this is a really quick way, without buying a new drum or having to go down some kind of crazy rabbit hole, to just take a secondary one that you may have and really take it away from the sound of your primary drum and be able to really kind of make a scene change for sections of songs or situations where you want something that doesn't have a traditional sound at all. All right, everybody, that about wraps it up. Thanks for coming along on this journey with us. It was really fun, and I've never done this to a Supraphonic before, so it was extra fun for me. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and click the notification bell below so you hear about all of our new videos flying out of this wonderful studio. Please also shoot over to the Patreon. Follow the link below if you haven't already. Lots of content over there, extra footage, anecdotes, cymbal series. And finally, if you are a remover of tension rods in your playing, we're dying to know. I know that some people like to take out one or two. This is kind of a new thing for us here, experimenting and trying to figure it out. We'd love to know your stories and especially how you decided to start doing that. Was it somebody you saw, somebody you heard, instructions from one of the older guys? Let us know.